The key thing is I don't worry about the finances. Don't be afraid to be more risky. Like I say, maybe I wasn't risky enough, but I think that go with your gut feeling. Cash flow is king. That's no surprise to any small or large business.
Welcome to today's episode of Sask Entrepreneurs Podcast. Today we have a very exciting guest, Wayne Wilson, who is the president and CEO of Business Furnishings. And he's been in this business for almost 40 years. Wayne, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
That's great. So Wayne, you've been in this business for over 40 years. Tell us a little bit about your backstory and journey and how you actually ended up in this role.
Well, there was no set game plan for me. When I got out of high school, one of the high school teachers wanted to know if he was involved in coaching hockey, and there was a general manager of the hockey team said, "What are you doing after you're done high school?" And I said, "I don't know." He said, "Why don't you come work for me?" So that was it. 17 years old, I started in 1976 at an office furniture company in Saskatoon here, and stayed there for about 6 years. And that's about the time when Business Furnishings opened in Saskatoon. It was a local owner with some ownership in Winnipeg, and he lured me over after 6 years at my other company, and that was about 82. And then he sold the company to another gentleman in maybe the early 90s. And at that time, the owner said, "Well, I think you're kind of key here." So he had given a couple of other partners, he cut us in, or a couple other salespeople at the time, he cut us in for 10% of the company each, just through sweat equity. We weren't on commission or anything. We were just paid a salary in those days. And so he just was kind enough to say, "Well, you put an awful lot of effort in it over the years." So I ended up having 10% of the company. And then years later, he was, at the time, he seemed old, but he was actually about my age. But anyways, he was about probably about 70 years old, and myself and two other partners ended up buying him out. And then I'm using track of time a little, but that had been mid-90s, somewhere around there. And so, and through the years, I've had a couple of different partners, and I don't know, maybe 20 some years ago, I ended up being president. And we still have partners, but saying maybe 10 or 15 years ago, ended up being president. So it was just right place at the right time, I guess. Kind of morphed into presidential without any real game plan, but that's okay. It worked out okay.
Mm-hmm. That's great. I mean, it's interesting. It's tough enough to run a business for a few years, or even, many businesses don't survive over 5 years. But you've been in this for more than 40 years. And, it's quite, you must have experienced many ups and downs over the past 4 decades.
Yeah.
Can you maybe highlight the biggest challenge that you faced?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge, even in the old days compared to now, it's our industry, because we're a contract furniture supplier. We have a lot of highs and lows. Like over the years, there's years where there's no mega projects. So and mega projects are good. It helps the cash flow along, but in the early years, you were grinding away pretty hard. Let's face it, in Saskatchewan in the 1980s was there wasn't a lot of economic development, and because of that, you really had to get out and literally knock on a lot of doors, and that's what that's how I built my career, is literally knocking on doors primarily in the north end of Saskatoon here in the 80s. And like I said, it was a little bleak, for a few years there. You didn't necessarily have business friendly governments in those days either. So it was a bit of a challenge, but it's always the big challenge, I guess, or what we've learned is it is really cyclical, and because of that, some of the challenges are things like staffing. We have a pretty significant, we have the largest furniture crew in the province, I would say, and installation crew. And so with the cyclical business that you have, if you land a major project, you need a whole bunch of people to get that job installed. And, and from a cash flow standpoint, because it's so cyclical, that's sometimes a little, can be a challenge. You're doing $1 million project, and that does happen fairly frequently with us, fortunately. But if you're doing a project of that size, you got to watch your cash flow. So it's part of the business.
Yeah. So obviously, when it comes to business development, so much has changed. Back then, the way that you approached customers, you were knocking on doors. I remember when I started my business about 15, 16 years ago, it was very different. Being in the digital space as well, it was very different for me to actually approach businesses and do the sales than it is today. How has that evolved with Business Furnishings?
It's a good question, because
It's a lot.
Certainly in the early years, it literally was, the more people you meet, and go see, the better chance you might cross paths. As you used to get a kick out of it. Every once in a while, you'd walk in and do a cold call on a customer, and in those days, people had some of them had time to see people that are virtually just walking into their office and, who can I talk to about furniture, and certainly in the 80s and 90s, the people were pretty open to that. And then certainly in the last 20 years, it's been a bit of a challenge. Although I don't give up. If I see I still get a charge out of that. If I see a building going up in town here, I'll still go knock on the contractor's construction door to sort of figure out who's moving in here or whatever. But I guess it's evolved now to the point where, and especially with the COVID situation, the last couple of years has been a huge kind of learning curve for us, in the fact that there is still business out there. It's not necessarily it's done certainly digitally. I guess some of you get some leads from people being on our website. We dabbled in some radio media here this past year just to see if there's any uptick on that. And it's the selling process has changed a lot, but the fundamental difference, I think, or something, I shouldn't say difference, the big issue is you still got to go see the customer. The nature of we're selling business to business, so you still got to go to the customer to measure their space to see if it's going to fit. So I think our industry is changed in some respects, but you still got to go do the face-to-face eventually. And again, when I'm talking projects, but certainly people can buy things online through, or email us or go to our website and buy things that way. But the large, vast 95% of our business is, it's still business to business. Our sales reps going out to the client and finding out what their needs are and then coming back with a solution.
So obviously, in the past couple of years, COVID has impacted many businesses in a negative way. How has it impacted your business?
Well, the first year of COVID, can't believe I said first year, but yeah, first year was a real challenge. People weren't in the office, or they didn't know what to deal with. 90% of our sales are people working in offices or in educational institutions. So the real challenge to us is we do a lot of corporate work, but we also rely quite heavily on higher ed, Sask Poly, U of S, U of R, and those people have been not working out of their offices for pretty much 2 full years, and that's a big chunk of our business is higher ed. So that's been a real challenge. So unfortunately, we did have to have some layoffs because there's just the volume of business certainly wasn't, and we have been coming off like 2019 was a really good year for us, and then to have 2020 have the bottom fall out was quite a challenge for us. And this past year, 2021, actually ended up being pretty darn good. And again, there was some mega projects involved there, but so I mean, we were feeling pretty good about 2022 because hopefully our customer base is going to be back with bums in seats, and even if it's not, the dynamic of the office environment has changed so dramatically now that people want collaborative workstations now, and so there's a lot of organizations that when they bring back people, they're saying, well, if we bring them back, we better spiff it up a little here so that their people aren't coming back to the same old. And as an employer, you want people to come back. I think most do, and so as a result, you can sort of leverage your furniture thing to bring people back to the office.
Mm. So you've been in the business for so many years, and I just I'm always interested in how companies evolve over time. Being in the furniture industry, I'm sure there's lots of evolution in terms of tech, in terms of the way that furniture is set up in offices. But can you speak a little bit about that as far as what that looks like for your business?
Yeah, the biggest changes. First of all, we obviously we do furniture, but about 10 years ago, we made a commitment to get into the modular wall systems. And with that came a whole new method of our drawing programs, like when you're drawing, when we were drawing for offices, we do 3D renderings for our clients so that they can see exactly what they're going to get, and it's in exactly the same color, and the carpet and the flooring is exactly what they're putting into their facility. So we were fairly tech savvy, I guess, years ago. And then about 10 years ago, we also had to enhance our drawing programs. So we have 3 people that are really tech savvy and can draw up some pretty spectacular office layouts using modular walls. And we are now, modular walls are, on any given year are probably 25% of our business. So that has changed for us because we, in essence, when you start doing wall systems and electrical and power and data, we are actually a construction company. We're going in, we're working with the architects, we're working with the all the IT people just to make sure that they can get all their power and data through our walls into the workstations. So that has certainly changed the way we operate, and we also we got into the K-12 business, furniture business for the schools back about 10 years ago, and both of those were a bit of a gamble. We didn't know what to expect from the modular wall business, but we have the right people to draw it, and we have the right people to install it, and the right people to sell it, and know what they're doing. So we have certainly evolved especially in the last 10 years, to become more than just a furniture by the pound kind of company. It's a lot more sophisticated, and pretty much everything we sell from a desking standpoint or a wall thing and it all has to be assembled. And back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, when you ordered a desk, it was already pre-assembled at the factory and they shipped it to you, and all you really had to do was unpack it and deliver it. Well, back in the 90s, late 90s there, it became all the manufacturers were making furniture in components, and therefore all that labor to build a desk that onus was put onto the furniture dealers themselves. So we've become, as I say, a lot more hands-on, no pun intended, with it literally installing furniture and walls at the same time. So that's changed it pretty dramatically.
Right. So what is it that gives your business a competitive edge in the industry?
There's a couple things. First of all, our people. Everyone says that, but really, when I think of the commitment and the talent of people from our installation group to our sales group and our administration staff and our CET drawing design people, we've got way more experience in the industry than any of our competitors by quite a bit, I might add. So it is our people, but also we have Steelcase. Steelcase is the largest manufacturer of architectural furniture and architectural walls in the world. And with that comes a significant amount of research. They are the gurus when the peoples like Microsoft or General Motors or Apple, when they have issues in their offices, whether it's a communication issue, they will get a hold of Steelcase, and Steelcase have a division that will go in and do a deep dive on large corporations. And we've done that with a couple of clients in Saskatchewan over the last 15 or 20 years, where they need to problem solve. What's wrong? We're supposed to be communication companies, but why are we falling down in that? So Steelcase have that ability to bring in a group of people that will work with the designer or work with the end user and say, come up with some interesting discoveries, like things like, did you know that there's a person in your office that might not be a high-ranking person, but that is your go-to person? There's a gatekeeper in your office, and everyone migrates to that person if they need to know what's going on in the organization. And they can find this type of thing through, they'll come in with videos and watch traffic patterns and see how people work. So where I'm going with that is Steelcase certainly, they have access to the world's, elite companies. They're, the Fortune 500 are right in their wheelhouse as far as doing studies and working with their clients. And as a result, they do a lot of research that they let us have access to. It's, even the amount of research that they've done during the whole COVID experience has been really quite impressive, as to worldwide studies with 30,000 people in 11 countries and 400 different organizations as to how is COVID affecting them, how is it going to affect your workplace. So Steelcase is sort of what everyone in our industry, you want to be a Steelcase dealer more than any other brand. And they're very selective as to who they have for dealers. And so that is sort of is our anchor. And then right alongside with that, we offer another unique thing that is we have a supplier of ours, a company called Creative Wood in Osler, Saskatchewan. So from the largest megacorp in the furniture business, Steelcase, to a family-owned, three brothers own a furniture manufacturing company in Osler. And they have been with us for 25 or 30 years. So if you want something that's locally made and world-class furniture, I'm talking about the ability to make, $100,000 boardroom table, we got that shop. If you want a $50,000 reception counter for your lobby area, we got that. And it is world-class furniture. And so we have the best of both worlds, where we've got, that local content, and we've also got, that brand recognition for, say, companies like General Motors or the Bank of Nova Scotia. We service all of those kinds of customers all across Saskatchewan. And so you build your dealership around that one brand, and Steelcase certainly is the brand that you want. I might add, we were not a Steelcase dealer for a few of the 40 years that we've been in business, but probably 30 to 35 years we've been a Steelcase dealer. So you know what it's like to not have the line, and it's one of those things you hang your hat on, the say, oh, we're the dealer, and that's a good thing.
Wow. So, you can never go wrong when you invest in the right people and the right technology. And it seems you've done that over the years. I do want to dig deeper on the people part because a lot of companies really struggle with getting the right team in the company, and it seems like you've built a team. You really take care of the people that work there at Business Furnishings. So just wanted to know a little bit more about maybe what are maybe some of the takeaways that other businesses can learn from you hiring and firing over the course of the 40 years.
Yeah, I think something that I learned really early is my forte is finding business, and it still is to this day. I certainly can't, without. I rely on our people more than anyone else in our company. I'll be honest, from an administrative standpoint, I am the least tech savvy person in our organization. So when I say how we've sort of embraced the technology, we've got some young people in our group that are fantastic when it comes to technology. And if you've got a computer glitch, certainly we have an IT company that looks after some of our stuff. But there's so many people here that are capable of. All you got to do is this. Okay, well, I didn't know that. So the key thing is we've got one of my business partners is the chief financial officer who's been with us for he's probably 25 years. He's a partner, and he just looks. I don't worry about the finances too much. He looks after that, and then my other business partners are some of them look after the back end, so that when our installation people go out and do a job, there's some local, there's some ownership eyes in the back seeing, how's it going? What's going on there? Yeah, and one of my other partners is a vice president, and she's phenomenal at doing proposals. People. We're getting RFP'd to death here, it seems, in the last, especially, it was bad enough before COVID hit. Well, to some degree, I think some of the RFPing that's been going on in the last couple of years are almost, to some degree, make work projects to keep people rolling. But you have to have someone that looks after those RFPs because, on some of the large projects that we work on, as I say, when they're get into the millions of dollars, for a specific project, the response to that RFP can take 2 or 3 people a month to do, and so you got to be sort of selective which ones you're going to jump on if it's going to take that much time, because let's face it, in a lot of RFPs, sometimes they make you jump through the hoops, and then they all look at the bottom line of the cheapest price anyway. So I was kind of like, Paul, we've always prided ourselves in not being the cheapest. If you want good stuff, come and see us. If you want good work, come and see us. But to win jobs based on price, that doesn't account for. We do win on occasion on price, but that type of business doesn't. In the overall scheme of things, isn't really where we're geared for. We're just good products at a fair price kind of thing is where we kind of built the company. That's great. I mean, I think competing on price is a race to the bottom, so you have to be very selective and careful about where your value add is. And I love the fact that you have these pillars in your company that. The people that form the structure and help sustain the business. So that's wonderful to know. So with regards to Saskatchewan, I mean, what do you love about doing business here in Saskatchewan? Well, I think there's a lot of business that, and for sure in Saskatoon and to some degree in Regina, there's still a lot of business that you can do on a handshake. And I think the other beautiful part about Saskatchewan is that, you're going to get paid. we're not in that, big city scenario where some hucksters coming in and you do all a bunch of work and then you have a tough time getting paid, so I think it's just, there's an insurance feeling there that says I'm in Saskatchewan and, I'll be, sure there's a few jobs that it might take a while to get paid, but, we know where they live. We know that at some point, you're going to get paid, and I think that's one of the cool things, I guess, that and I remember even when my first boss, again, this is like 35 years ago, and someone hadn't paid a $400 bill. He said, "What's going on with this?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I better go visit him." So, you had to sit in the guy's office for a little bit of an hour waiting to get in to see the guy. I said, "Look, you owe me $400." We got paid, but there's been so few instances in the last 40 years where, if maybe it's because I'm Scottish, but I remember every once in a while, you might lose $500 in a year or something like that. And I can remember, I can count them on one hand the amount of times we've been maybe didn't get paid, but I remember those people, and occasionally I would still see one or two around town, and I can look at them and they know what I'm thinking, I just remember.
Yeah. So what is the future of Business Furnishings? A decade down the road, what is the vision that you have?
I think the vision is to, we have, as I mentioned, we've got some really young people. When I say young, at my age, we've got some 30 and 40-year-old people here that hopefully the torch will just get passed to them. I'd like to see that Business Furnishings name, last another 40 years, and so. But what the future will hold, as far as, I don't know what the next product offering is going to be, but coming out of COVID might just present some issues or some new product innovation that it might be, who knows what they're going to be. But the future, for sure is, I'd like to see that name carry on in the next 10 years. Hopefully I might retire on the 5th of never, but if I'm still here in 10 years, so be it. Hopefully I don't have to work as hard in 10 years from now at the age of 73, but if that happens, I'm a bit of a grinder, so I can see, it will do whatever it takes, so, but truly, we've got some young group here, just like I was when I was in my 30s and 40s, and got a pretty good solid base here to see what the next succession plan will be.
Great. So on more of a personal note, if you were to go back 20 years, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Well, I think one of the, I think it's a bit of a regret. We probably should have bought our own building back 25 or 30 years ago. But, we didn't. And so, in hindsight, that could have been maybe a bit of a retirement package. You own some commercial real estate somewhere. I kind of missed that wave. But so I guess, hindsight, maybe there was a bit of a reluctance, I guess, maybe to jump in with both feet and buy a place, and and so maybe I should have been a little bit more risky, I guess, even though maybe real estate might not be a risk, but I think maybe when I was 30 or 40 years old, maybe if I'd have jumped in and said, yeah, let's buy a place, that would be one of my regrets. I have partners, and partners are like a marriage. Sometimes you have some issues, but in general, it's a pretty good tilt with all the partners, and I think by design, I think a business might run a little bit smoother if there was maybe one or two owners, sort of thing. But in hindsight, I mean, we've got such a solid group of us that, at any given time, you just do what you had to do at that time and say, well, okay, well, we're going to bring that person in as a partner, and it has worked out. But I suppose it would have been that might have been more of a challenge, but because I rely on people. But if I was the sole owner, maybe that might have been a little easier, But no regrets. Like I say, we've got such a core group here, and anyone else, and the beauty of that is that we are a true company, and if any one of us left, there's enough talent and knowledge here to keep rolling. So that's the upside to it is, there's a pretty significant backing of ownership here that that would be here if one of us left.
So based on your experience and the challenges that you've overcome over the years, what experience or what key advice can you actually give to our listeners as part of a takeaway?
Key advice: cash flow is king. That's no surprise to any small or large business. Make sure those receivables are sort of looked after, and don't let them get too old. I think don't be afraid to be more risky. Like I say, maybe I wasn't risky enough, but I think that and your gut. Go with your gut feeling. Like sometimes if you've got a project you're working on, and you're saying, well, is it a race to the bottom or is it not a race to the bottom? And to your comment, and sometimes deep down inside, do I really have a shot at this, or am I just wasting time? So you gotta a lot of stuff goes with your gut in business, and those would be my top three, I guess.
I think your point about receivables, it's a very important one, and from my perspective, I think I just like to stress on that point, because I come across a lot of business owners that don't have their costs and their receivables intact. They don't understand the finances, and that can literally ruin them. In fact, that's one of the number one reasons why a business fails, is because they just don't understand the finances, where the cash is coming from, where it's going, what's happening to the expenses, and are they even collecting at the right stages?
Well,
And a lot of businesses, they operate at low margins, so it can have a huge impact on their profitability.
and every industry has it, but because every industry's probably got that competitor out there that they don't have a control of their cost. And when to your comment about race to the bottom, when it becomes a pricing situation, if you're basing your whole company philosophy, or you're responding and you're continually low, those are usually the companies that, to your point, they're the ones that are always struggling. And Lord knows that I can sit here and in the last 40 years think of, I can probably count 10 competitors of mine that aren't in business anymore, and those are the ones that are the market disturbers that burst onto the scene and snap up some large projects and kind of screw up the whole market for a while. And so, you gotta know what your costs are, and if you don't, that's what's gonna get you in trouble.
So true. Wayne, it's been such a pleasure to have you here today. Where can people learn more about yourself and contact you online?
Well, you can certainly go to our website, busfern.com. or my email address, wwilson@busfern.com would probably be the easiest way to get a hold of me, and check out our website, and we'll be more than happy to spend some time with you, see if we can help you out with any issues you might have in your office or educational environment.
That's great. Thanks once again, Wayne, and such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for sharing the insights, and we wish you the
Very
best.
much for this opportunity. This is I can't say that I've done too much of this, so I kind of got a charge out of it. Thanks again.
Thanks for listening to Sask Entrepreneurs. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a spark of inspiration. To catch more stories and lessons learned from Saskatchewan's business leaders, visit SaskEntrepreneurs.com. Until next time, keep building, keep growing, and keep Saskatchewan strong. Ciao.